If tomorrow starts without me, there's something you should know. While I hold you close, never let you go.
Hello and welcome to The Broken Pack, a podcast focused on giving sibling loss survivors a platform to share their stories and to be heard, something that many sibling loss survivors state that they never have had. Sibling loss is misunderstood. The Broken Pack exists to change that and to support survivors. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Dean. Today, I'm joined by Elizabeth Ostler, a Brooklyn-based theater maker and academic who has lost two of her siblings, her sister Lisa and her brother Rob. We talk about loving someone in addiction, the grief that doesn't end, and SisterPlay, a play that she wrote to hold their story and bring it on stage. Take a listen.
Cause you never know, you just never know.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
So my name is Elizabeth Ostler, and I am a theater maker and an academic. So I've been creating theater for over 30 years. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I think that's a good place to start.
Fantastic. I know that when I saw your email, and I was very excited about the theater connection. So yeah, it's been a while since I worked in theater.
I was delighted to learn that you have a theater background as well.
Thank you. And the theater and psychology are so connected. So I think that it's a good natural fit, especially when I was reading the topic of your dissertation. So,
Thank you for
of course,
interest in that.
So how would you like to introduce Lisa to us?
Yeah, Lisa is my sister, Lisa Marie Ostler. And so I'm the oldest of four, and Lisa is number two. And Lisa was born on August 16, 1978. And we are about 18 months apart. So she's the one that made me a sister.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, we were playmates. And as we got into tween, teenager, then we were more like frenemies. But we came back to each other in adulthood and became closer. So that's the dynamic of our relationship. Lisa herself was big-hearted and felt things deeply. She struggled with mental illness. She was diagnosed as borderline personality. And that made things hard at times. She was really good at reading people, and she was charismatic. And I want to be very clear here that this all came from a genuine place. She could really meet you where you were at, and you'd be like, oh, she totally gets it. She's on board with this, but then, would switch it. And then you're always like, wait, hold on. I thought we were here. And that would be disruptive at times. She also experienced a number of traumas growing up. So that just exasperated the situation. And so she started using drugs and alcohol to self-medicate. So through a good chunk of her adulthood, she was in and out of addiction.
I think that's a valid point that you make about people with borderline personality disorder, that it's oftentimes they can connect and read people, and it gets a really bad stigma, both in my profession, but also in the world, where we have beliefs that it's manipulative or unintentionally, but it's really about connection and wanting to connect and attach with people. So I thank you for stating that.
Yeah.
Because it's those flips to the all or nothing.
Yes.
Makes you feel like, what am I doing here? I thought we were good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because Lisa was, again, so generous with her heart and her love. Part of the thing that was frustrating to love her is that is it because of that and the way the connection, and it was real, that the behavior was hard to just witness and be part of and get into the tornado of it all.
Right.
Would be really challenging.
Yeah. So it sounds like in a lot of ways, your adult relationship had changed from that frenemy perspective.
Yeah.
And then it was also challenging as an adult, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. I think it was never it was never just easy. There was not a simple ease. Number 3, so Laura. So it goes me, Lisa, Laura, and then our brother, Robert. Laura and I were always very easy. We never really had to work very hard at it. I mean, we're sisters, so we would fight, but in that normal way. But with Lisa, there's always another element that sometimes required a little bit more work or focus or just, and honestly, sometimes just a break. The drama would be too much sometimes. Being the oldest, I really also took on a parentified type of role. And so I think that also added to our dynamic that would be challenging sometimes, where I was like, things need to be in order. We need responsibility. We need this type of thing. And then her more like, no, let's see where it takes us and let's show up for people and throw everything out at the window because this one person needs this help right now. That was hard at times.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you were that one person for her that needed something?
No. And I think part of it is because I would never let myself be. That would not have been okay with me. I always had to have it together. Like I was like, no, I am steady. If anything, I sometimes felt like she wanted that from me, for me to drop everything and just be like, I'll be your ride or die. And I was like, no, responsibilities, not ride or die. And so I think, yeah. So I think maybe I would imagine on her end, sometimes there was some disappointment from me.
Sounds like it. What are the ages of the siblings difference?
Yeah. So my parents
differences?
did 4 kids in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a lot of chaos. So the difference is that's going to require math. So I'm just going to give you our years that we were born.
Okay, that's totally fine.
Okay. So I was born in 1977. Lisa was born in 1978. Laura was born in 1980. And then Robert in 1982.
Okay. Yeah. Crazy times. So you were about a year apart?
We were about 18 months.
18 months. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
What are you comfortable sharing about losing her?
I think where I'd want to start is her death was my first real significant loss. Lisa died at 37. And so I was 38. And we had lost a grandfather, right? That made sense. And so I was almost 40 before I had a death that rocked me. And hers did. I could talk about that she died, and I could talk about grief, but how she died was off the table for many years, until about a year or so ago. And her death fundamentally changed me. I am a different person for having lost her. One of the things I was reflecting on this in anticipation of this call, she'd been in and out of her addiction for over a decade. And one of the things when you love somebody who's in addiction is that there's almost like this, it's not quite the long goodbye, because there's always hope that it won't end in a goodbye, that they'll get sober, but there's a constant grieving that's happening as you're watching somebody self-destruct and blow up their life in the ways in which she was. At times before she died, there was a piece of me that just wondered if she was to finally pass, would there be relief in it? Because it was so painful to watch her life. And there wasn't relief actually in her death. It was just horrific and painful and not. And I kept thinking I'd be ready, and I wasn't.
It sounds like that anticipation, right? Because you probably thought she was going to die so many times. You thought you knew what that would be like.
Yeah. And she had suicidal ideation pretty much from adolescence on. And there were a few attempts. And so there had been a few scares, but again, not until it actually happened. So I wasn't at all prepared.
Mm-hmm. To clarify, if I remember from reading what I read, she didn't die by suicide.
No, she did not.
Okay.
No.
Thank you for-
No,
yeah.
just in the many ways I thought she would die, or that she had. I can now talk about how she died, and we can.
Only whatever you're comfortable sharing.
So when she died in 2016, she was arrested on March 30th for drug-related charges. And this wasn't the first time she'd been arrested. And in fact, the times that she had, because she was sometimes living in her car, so we didn't always know where she was. So those times when she was arrested, it was actually a bit of a relief because we knew where she was. We knew that she was being fed, she had a place to sleep, and hopefully, honestly, that she'd detox, and maybe this would lead to a stretch of sobriety. And sometimes it did. And so this time when we found out that she was arrested, I live in New York, but my family lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. So this is happening in Salt Lake City. She's arrested and taken to Salt Lake City jail, and she is there, and she's not okay. She's not feeling well. It's clear from the intake documents she's not okay. A social worker meets with her and says, yeah, this one's not okay. And what it turned out that was happening in her body, and we didn't know at the time, is that she had an ulcer that had perforated. And so she had developed peritonitis, which is when you get an infection in your stomach lining. It is 100% treatable, but if not treatable, it is deadly. And so once she's arrested, admitted into the jail on March 30th, and by the morning of April 2nd, and during those 2 days, she is repeatedly asking for help, and she's denied medical treatment. And she's asked at one point, are you coming down? And she says, yes. And they're like, well, you're going to just detox. And even though they continue, and the other women, the other detainees in the jail are saying, hey, this woman isn't detoxing. Like, there's something really wrong here. And they're ignored. They're told to shut up. They're even threatened. And then on the morning of April 2nd, they find her dead in her cell. They are able to restart her heart, and they send her to an ICU, but she never gains consciousness. And she dies at 1 a.m. on April 3rd.
It's really heavy and unfortunate in so many ways.
Yeah.
We don't often treat people that are incarcerated for one reason or the other, or detained, right? Was she charged with anything?
No, so because it didn't get that far. She'd just been arrested. And so she was being held. And so, in fact, a judge was going to send an order. I have to look back at the records. I believe he may have already signed the order that she was to be released. It was just like a run-of-the-mill, type situation. And I think for me, I just described to you what happened to her body. But really why Lisa died is because she was dehumanized.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, that is part of what is so painful about this, and why I couldn't talk about it for so long. And I couldn't talk about it because I couldn't sit with it. I wouldn't remember what she died from. I had to keep asking my mom, wait, what is that term again? My system couldn't hold that she suffered in the way that she did in such a needless way. And to add to it, just to the situation, is that how we treat incarcerated individuals is something that I care about, and I cared about before this happened to Lisa. So Brian Stevenson wrote the book, Just Mercy. And it is all about his work working with incarcerated people. And so he is part of the Equal Justice Initiative, and they're doing all this wonderful work around this. I read this book, and it is then when I read that book that I come to understand that incarcerated individuals are a vulnerable population. I didn't really understand that. I grew up very much in a way thinking more about punishment, and that that was just what's happening over there. And then so I was really thinking about it. And so on April 2nd, the same day that Lisa is found dead in her jail cell, I am at my alma mater, Sarah Lawrence College, at a prison reform conference. And we're on break, and I get the call from my mom. This is Lisa's was in a jail, and they found her unconscious. They're sent her to an ICU, and we don't know what's going to happen. And it was a surreal experience for me to be just having listened to all these people about, and then here's my sister. And I didn't know what to do because at this point, right, she just said like in the ICU, but there was a part of me that kind of knew that this was going to be the end. But I couldn't actually hold that and like I couldn't comprehend that. And of course, I'm hoping it's not.
Right.
So I stay at the conference and I'm like in and out mentally at the conference. There's one moment that is very clear to me when I'm there and they have 3 or 4 women who were formerly incarcerated and they had been working with a theater company on telling their stories. And so they're doing these short monologues about their experience in jail and who they are and all of these things. I just remember like being there and then I'd like go deep into myself because I felt like I could finally sit inside myself. We're sisters, like we're connected on a soul level. And then I'm like, she's in a coma and maybe I can go deep into myself and maybe I can find her there. Maybe I can say something that will help her grab onto life.
Did you feel supported in that moment by what you were hearing? I guess a better question would be, what was that experience like, having just
Yeah.
learned all of this and in that moment having to hold on to, this could be her right now?
Yeah, exactly. And I was with 2 of my really good friends. And so that was already helping. But as a theater maker, and I'm sitting in a theater I had done plays in and had worked in when I was a college student, it really was quite helpful. I felt like I was being held.
Mhm.
It was really hard. Yeah, because the things were comfortable and I knew them, that I think I could even do that because of the way in which I did feel this kind of external and even like metaphysical support.
Right. Which,
Mhm.
having worked briefly in theater, but having been trained in theater, I totally get that. The theater space just feels yet another being in our
Yeah.
lives that is supportive. So
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
glad
And
that
I
you have
believe,
that.
the work of theater and a theater can be a very sacred space. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
like tuning into that a little bit for
Were you
sure.
able to get back to Utah?
Yeah. So, the very next day, so I get the call. So that's April 2nd. She dies in the middle of the night. And so I am, going back, calling back and forth with my mom all through the day and the night. And then, so the next morning, I'm on a flight to Salt Lake. So I didn't see her. The rest of my family, so my parents, Lisa has 3 kids, her kids, my sister Laura, were all able to say goodbye.
Mhm.
But I wasn't. My mom at one point did put the phone by Lisa for me. And I
Mhm.
tried and it didn't feel real. It didn't feel connected. And so I tried something and I was like, I can't do this. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you were able to find her inside yourself and that
Yeah.
connection.
In my own way.
Where are you now with that? And I want to recognize that I know that you've done a lot of work around incarcerated individuals, but also with your new project.
Yeah. It's been 10 years now. We just passed 10 years. And so I've written a play about this experience, and writing the play was part of what allowed me to be able to talk to you about how she died. So when Lisa died, when I was in my grief, I knew that I was going to use art as a way to process it, because that's just how
Mhm.
I process.
Right.
And I suspected that it was going to be a play, sometimes because I also am a visual artist, so it could have been a piece of, and it could have been multiple, right? But I knew it was going to be a play, but I just couldn't figure out for years what that was going to look like. And I knew it had to be the events that happened in the jail. And just the idea of directing a human playing my sister, I was just like, I can't in the jail. Like, I'm like, I can't do that. I can't. And so I had a friend of mine who is a playwright and a poet, and she had written a book of poetry about her brother's death. And I'd actually was teaching writing at the time, and I was teaching that book of poetry to my students when Lisa died. My friend was going to come to campus and talk, and I had to postpone that because I had to go to Lisa's funeral. So it was all of these things like coming together. She said something really profound to me, and she said, there is art here, but it will take time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kept being the thing I'd hold on to. Okay, there is art here, but it's going to take time. And it's okay that it's not coming. And then a few years ago, I had this flash in my mind of a scene of Lisa in the jail. Lisa was a bunraku puppet. So my primary training in theater is directing and puppetry. I'm clarifying that it's a bunraku puppet, not like Jim Henson, love Jim Henson, but it's a human-looking puppet. They're usually about 2 to 3 feet tall, takes 3 people to manipulate. And I see that, and I see a little bit of the scene play out. And I'm like, oh, I think I know how I can do this. So I sit with that for even a couple more years. So my family filed a wrongful death case for Lisa's. And so we worked very closely with an attorney, Rocky Anderson. And I'm meeting with Rocky, and I'm like, how can I get involved? How can I help? Like, this can't keep happening. Because Lisa wasn't an anomaly. It is a systemic issue. And in fact, 23 other people died in jail the same year Lisa did in Utah.
Just in Utah.
Exactly.
In
Just
2016.
in Utah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, another sidebar around this is that there's been some investigative journalism around medical treatment for incarcerated individuals. And a report that came out in 2017, so the year after Lisa died, said that Utah County jails had the highest rate per capita of jail deaths than any other state in the country. So there's a real issue. And Rocky has been working very hard on this and has really dedicated part of his life to addressing this. So I was meeting with him. I'm like, how can I get involved? And he's doing all the lawyer stuff. And I'm like, "Arr." And then I thought, oh, what I could do is tell the story. So then the flash came back of the play. And I said to him, I think I could write a play. And he goes, that would be amazing if you could do that. And he gave me everything from the case. So all of the discovery items.
How hard was that for you to look
It
at?
was harrowing. It was awful. That was last January. And he gave me a hard drive. And the researcher in me was like, I am going to go through every document. I'm going to read every word. I'm going to look at every image. Nothing's getting past me. Thankfully, the sister and the playwright in me was like, oh, no. We don't need just the stuff we need. My parents were heavily involved in the case. And my mom's like, there are things you don't need to see. There are things I wish I didn't see. Because they have like video footage of her being hunched over and things like that. And she's like, you don't need to see that. And so I didn't. I really just stayed with testimonies. But the first time I really was going through them, I got physically ill. I had to shut my computer and walk away. I was so nauseous. I was like, I don't know that I can do this. And in fact, I was saying to myself, what the hell are you doing?
Right. Which makes total sense.
Right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The details of it all. It was too much for my system. Too much. And so a wiser, kinder part of me just said, you don't have to do this. You don't have to write this play. You don't have to do any of this. And so I was like, well, I'll just take a minute. So the rest of the day, I didn't work on it. And then the next morning, as I was just waking up, and this is common for me and when I'm creating something, that I'll get lots of insights, just as I'm waking up. And just as I was waking up, all the things that I had read the day before, I saw in a scene. I was like, oh, that's what that looks like. And I got up, pulled my computer, started working on it. And the whole process, I kept saying, you don't have to finish this. You don't have to do it. You can write this play or not. You can write this play and not show it to a single person. It just was very helpful to me to be like, this looks however it looks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you gave yourself that compassion and that permission to approach it in whatever way worked or didn't work for you. Yeah.
I had to, or it wouldn't have been sustainable. And sharing this with you right now, I'm thinking about, I think part of what helped prepare me and help me know that voice and to trust that part is all of the anniversaries.
Mm-hmm. You've had 10 of them.
Yeah. I'm curious too with you and how you handle your anniversary. Is it like when I tried to be like, I'm going to make sure I have a ritual and I'm going to make sure, because that's how it was at first. It was like these things and she will be remembered and we will. It made it harder. Then now I'm like, it comes however it comes.
Yes. So my listeners and followers on Instagram know that the 5th year for me was really hard.
Yeah.
And so each anniversary has been different. Each year has been different. And I'm only half as far into this loss as you are. But ritual is important in keeping our grief contained. So I think the more that we have that ritual, that container for our grief, sometimes it's easier to manage. But again, I don't know that we can plan for those anniversaries. I'm more curious because you've had 10 of them and it sounds like you had this period of time where you couldn't tolerate the grief.
Yeah.
So how did the anniversaries help you get through that, to get back to your point of that?
I think it was more of how I approached the anniversaries, because I actually love ritual and I agree with you. I think ritual is really important. It's when I became rigid about the ritual that didn't always serve me and didn't always serve my grief, because the grief is moving and evolving. And particularly in those early days, this was like my first grief of this magnitude that changed me in this way. And there's so many things I didn't know about grief that I've been learning along the way. And so at the time, I thought it was something I had to get through. I didn't know that it would eventually be how I understand it now for me, is that it's a primary relationship that I have. It's not going anywhere. It's how I'm in relationship with it.
Yes.
Is what I understand now. I didn't know that then. I thought I just had to get through it.
Right. Because in our grief illiterate society, we think you've got a year, then you're good, move on.
Right.
And you will somehow forget.
Exactly.
That person.
And then check. And then you get it, right? And you're like, wait, no, this isn't that. This is harder. This is rougher. This isn't following a pattern. It was hard to find my footing in the world. And I lost so much. The other thing I didn't know is that I was going to lose a part of myself. There was a me before Lisa died that I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to.
The
She's
part of yourself.
gone. Yeah. And it's like, and so I'm this new person. I'm dealing with this thing. And what am I supposed to do here? That was really hard. But then life is going on around you.
Yes.
And you're like, wait a minute, time, you're just going to keep going? And job, you're just going to keep going? And friends, you're just going to keep going? Really? But then when I sit in my place, I'm like, what the hell? And when I can step out of it and be like, well, yeah, it does. Things keep moving. I can hold both now, but I get angry at the audacity of things moving forward.
Right, because your world stops.
Yes.
And it feels like everybody else's world should also stop.
Yeah. And I don't think, at least in United States culture, generally speaking, I think we do a really crappy job of grief and having ritual around grief.
Yes.
And so I kept thinking, I wish I had a black armband that I could wear that would just signal to people, I'm in grief and I'm not okay. So give me a lot of space and a lot of grace. And sometimes I'd want to wear it and sometimes I wouldn't. I didn't want something where we used to wear black for a year. Like I didn't want to be told that, but I wanted a choice and a way that I could just do something that would signal to people and I wouldn't have to tell them.
Right. There's a documentary from WPSU. Lindsay Whistle-Fenton is the producer on that. There's a scene at the beginning in which everyone is wearing these T-shirts and one will say like dad and sister and mom and brother. And they're all walking around and these are the people they lost and everyone is avoiding them. Like there's a scene in a grocery store that I distinctly remember. This woman turns around and turns a cart the other way because she sees a grieving person. Yeah. And then people tell their stories. It's a documentary. And by the end, people are just acknowledging you've lost someone. There's this grief. Yeah. And I think to your point, people wearing black for a year. My parents come from a culture where you wear black practically the rest of your life after you losing someone. Ironically, I'm wearing black today, but that's not why. There is the signal, right? They're grieving. We can support them. A lot of cultures have that. Like you said in the US, maybe it's the product of we're so many blended cultures, but our narratives are different, right? Like we don't acknowledge that in the same way. And we are not comfortable talking about death and dying. Some of us are.
I think there is something to that. I hadn't considered the blended culture. That I think there's absolutely something to that. And I think that there's also something to our individualism as Americans, that we often think first in terms of individuality instead of community. That grief is a community, that we treat it as like it's a solo thing, but actually it's community. When we lose one person, the community suffers and that an individual touches many lives and that they're impacted. I think there's also that we're not always handling things in community and seeing things from a community lens.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that that's different, right, for different cultures. And there's this perception that Eastern cultures are more collectivist and Western cultures are more individualistic. But I think that's too general. The more that I realize there's so many subcultures of that, where my dad comes from. It's very collectivistic, even though it's a European country. But here, because of that blending, because people don't talk about grief, there's this fundamental misunderstanding about how we can support each other. Yeah. Or what support do you even need? And how do you grieve the person that you were before Lisa died? Beyond grieving her, you're also grieving that self. One of the first things you said when we were talking was, I am fundamentally changed. Yeah. Because of this loss. Yeah. She wouldn't recognize this version of you.
No, I don't think so. There'd be a part of her where she's like, oh, you're different. And here's the thing, too, is there are gifts in grief. And to choose Lisa or the grief, I'm choosing Lisa.
Of course.
This is the thing I didn't know at the beginning that I know now for me, is that grief is something I value. The way I look at it is I used to feel like grief was like pressing down on me. And then I went to therapy. So in addition to losing Lisa, I lost my brother in 2022, my brother Robert. And I was doing okay, like as far as emotionally and with Lisa, like I'd learned how to be in the world again. I had been in therapy on and off through my life, so I was using some tools. But then when I lost Robert, I was like, I could hold it together with one. I can't hold it together with two. Like it's too much. Like I can't do two. And so then I went back to therapy and started EMDR therapy. And then I also joined a grief group, sibling grief group.
Oh, wow.
In particular. Yeah. And those two things are what helped put me back together. And so when Rob dies and Lisa dies, grief is here on me and it's like pushing on my chest and I can't breathe and I can't function and it's just suffocating me. And then through that kind of community, so just like we were talking about where society at large does not do a good job, I found a community that does and of like-minded people in my grief group. And particularly that it was sibling.
I
That
love
we could,
that.
right, talk about these. And that there was another person also in my grief group that also lost 2 siblings.
Uh-huh.
And so to be able to have that mirrored back
Uh-huh.
was so affirming.
Uh-huh.
And then through doing the therapy as well, that eventually what ended up happening is that grief moved from being on top of me to being next to me.
Uh-huh.
And my parents used to have a Labradoodle named Coco. And Coco was a real lover. And she was the type of dog that like always was like pushing up against you and like patting her and petting her. And for me, grief has taken on this image of Coco that it just lives right next to me. And it like pushes into me sometimes. And sometimes I push into grief. And this is where I like it. And this is where I want it. I don't want it on me, but I want it next to me. Because my grief is a love story. And if I lose this relationship, it would feel like another loss, another way of losing them.
That's a beautiful way of thinking about grief. Yeah. Do you want to introduce Robert to us as well?
Yeah, Rob. Because Rob and I were 5 years apart, we always had a sibling relationship. We were never like quite friends. Rob was a real eccentric. He loved skateboarding, was really good at it. He loved Bruce Lee and would do nunchucks. And in fact, this necklace that I'm wearing is actually nunchucks. And when he passed, some friends gave it to me. And so it's my way of holding on to him at times. So he loved Bruce Lee, and was very good at his nunchucks. He also was very smart, but not disciplined. He like dropped out of high school, and he was always like trying to invent things and imagine things. Like he got into this way of using magnets to levitate things and this scientific brain. That was really interesting. He loved movies, so he was always calling me and talking about movies and quoting movies. He was so funny as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob was a good time.
Sounds like you had definitely a different relationship, a little less parentification of that sibling.
Yeah. I mean, there was still some parentification with Rob, but it wasn't quite as complicated. Yeah, because then it felt more of just like older sister, younger brother. Type.
And you lost him in 2022.
Yes.
As you're trying to already come to terms with losing
with Lisa. His death was a real surprise. We didn't see it coming. He also struggled in addiction and had been experiencing homelessness for a couple of years, and then had gotten sober and had gotten housing and was working. And so we were really hopeful. And he got COVID. And it wasn't treated. Nobody knew. And so at first we thought it was a stroke, and then we learned it was COVID. And so it was really hard.
I'm sorry to hear that. And both of those seem very stigmatized. You had this hope for both of them to be doing better.
Yeah.
And you lost them both.
Yeah. The thing too in their death, because particularly the last few years of their lives were very hard with their addiction, and I did have to draw some really strong boundaries with them. And so essentially the boundary was, if you are in active addiction, don't reach out to me. Because I was like, I can't take calls in the middle of the night. I'm not going to give you money, right? Like all of these things. Don't reach out to me. But if you're working on getting sober, reach out to me. So there were long periods where we weren't talking with both of them, with Rob and Lisa. And then it got complicated because sometimes they would then like drug share. So it was really hard on so many levels. And then even as I said at the beginning, dynamics were still playing out where I'm like, no, I'm the responsible one.
Yeah.
And Rob has 2 girls. And it's just like, I have these kids. And so I'm like, am I now going to have to take on more than being an aunt to these kids? And, just trying to figure that out. So, yeah, particularly the last few years of both of their lives, it was hard to be in a relationship, and it was hard. And I loved them, and I wanted them to be sober, and I wanted them to have full lives.
Mhm.
And they both had so many talents and gifts to give. And it was just heartbreaking to watch them not develop them and utilize them to thrive. But in their deaths, and I do believe in an afterlife, I am a religious person. I believe that they live on.
Mhm.
And I believe that those relationships are continuing now, and that I'm still in relationship with them, and that I
Yeah.
can be in a more intimate relationship with them now
Mhm.
than I could when they were struggling in their addictions.
What do those relationships look like now for you?
Yeah, they're different because they're different people,
Of course.
but there is a commonality. I think for me, it was a process to understand that they are more than they were here.
Mhm.
And this idea that the relationship continues on was given to me at Lisa's funeral. I wouldn't have to wait until I died for us to then reconnect. They're like, oh, no, now. And so I could get a sense of her and feel her. And then there's this moment when I was reading this thing and I was like, oh, I wish Lisa was alive. I think this could help her. And she could understand this thing, like this
Mhm.
concept. And so I was lamenting that she wasn't alive and that this could help. And then I thought, Liz, she knows more than you know. Not only does she know this, she knows so much more. And
Mhm.
it shifted in me of now I look at her as more of my teacher
Mhm.
and my guide in
Mhm.
this life than
I
a
love
sister
that.
that was struggling and needed help.
Mhm.
But I now seek after her in that way. And then in writing this play, I felt so close to her. We get to choose how we interpret things.
Of course.
And so I'm choosing that certain feelings or certain message, like even if somebody was to say something to me and I'd be like, there's Lisa's in that or
Mhm.
Rob's in that,
Mhm.
that it looks a lot like that. And Rob is a lot more joy. When I think of Rob, I think of a lot more joy. And Rob reminds me to have fun in this life.
Sounds like with all of this grief, even with the grief as the guide and the companion, that you need that
Yeah.
reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he present in SisterPlay?
He is in the sense of all of my family members
Mhm.
are in it. And so, yeah, there's a character that's a younger brother. That's
Mhm.
him.
Yeah. What more do you want to say about the play? I know that it's coming out soon.
Yeah. So I developed it last year. So wrote it. It took me 6
Mhm.
weeks to write it.
That's it?
Yes. I think
That's impressive.
well, thank you. But I had been marinating about it for
Mhm.
years. So the development looks like doing different readings. So
Mhm.
readings just so I can hear it, a reading in Utah over the summer so that my family and the attorney could see it. And they all knew I was writing it, but I didn't
Mhm.
want to get too far and for them to be like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
we are devastated, like, what have you done? And so it was important to me that they knew what I was doing,
Mhm.
and particularly Lisa's children, that
Mhm.
they were okay with what I was doing.
How old are
Uh,
they?
the two oldest
Mhm.
are in their early 20s, and then her youngest is 15.
Okay. So they were pretty little when she died.
Yeah. But everyone was very supportive of the play. And so that was really good. And that gave me courage. And then I've continued to do some readings for different audiences to see how it
Mhm.
was landing. I would do rewrites. And then I felt very strongly that I want to produce it in New York City and Salt Lake City. And then it was
Mhm.
produced in at least one of those cities this year as part of the
Mhm.
10-year anniversary.
Nice.
And so because I live in New York City, it's easier for me to develop things here in New York
Right.
City and then take it to Salt Lake. So that's what's happening. So it's going up this year in
Yeah.
September. September 1st will be the first performance, which is my mother's birthday. Yeah. So I feel something special in
Mhm.
that. And actually it ends September 13th, which is my dad's birthday. That was not by design. It just happened.
Oh, that's maybe
Yeah.
Lisa's work.
Thank you. I think so too. And Lisa was a real numbers person. Like she's always
Mhm.
reading in the numbers of things. And I'm like, this is 100% Lisa. Yeah. And so right now I'm fundraising for the play and starting to build the creative team. I'm holding auditions in 2 weeks. So it's coming along, and it's
I love
really
this.
exciting.
Yeah. And that's in New York City. So we'll share that all in the show
Oh,
notes
thank
and on
you.
the webpage.
Yeah.
Of course. I do want to come back to this thing that you mentioned. I'm curious about the sibling support group. And I
Yes.
know of one that is in New York. And unfortunately, because of licensing and all of the things, they are not able to do work outside of New York the way that a lot of our licenses are.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you wouldn't mind sharing what this support group was that you found that was so helpful.
Cope.
Yes.
Is
that
it
is
Cope?
the one that
that yours?
that is on my website. No, it's not mine, but it
Okay.
is. There is a fellow in thanatology, which is some of the letters after my name, who leads the sibling group, and I had just put that on the website.
Is it Rashida?
So I'm glad. Yes. Yes.
No, Rashida leads my group.
Yes, that's amazing. I
love Rashida.
Yes. Yes, she's on the website.
She's the
new
best.
website. Yes. I will send her a link to this episode as well.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Yeah. 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 No, and that has been a real tether, a community. And we created our group because it's like with any type of group like this, like what happens in the group stays in the group.
Yes, of course.
Cope is really lovely too, of trying to build a larger community. So they'll have things like picnics, and they'll have like walks to raise money for Cope, things like that to help, bring the community outside of our room and into a larger space. But our little group has a WhatsApp chat that is just active.
I love that.
And it's so wonderful. And we share things like recognizing anniversaries. So birthdays, death anniversaries, but also like one of our members just got a huge promotion at work and we're all like, yay!
That's so fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been
Community.
a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's to be part of that and just to have people that know and you don't have to say the things is really helpful because there's so much in grief when I'm interacting with others, particularly people who haven't lost a sibling. There's almost like an educational part to it that can get exhausting.
Yes.
And so when you don't have to do that part, at least in one place, it's really nice.
Yeah. It's part of the mission of the Broken Pack is that we are educating.
Yes. You're
not just
doing it.
siblings, but others. Yeah. There's some new things coming out that we'll be doing too.
Oh, that's
hopefully.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the name of your podcast, just like it brings tears to my eyes in a way of like, that is exactly what it is. It is a broken pack. I am part of a broken pack. How did you come up with that name?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. And thank you for the feedback on that. My brother loved wolves. So this is actually a continuing bond with my brother in a lot of ways. I love them. And when I was creating this organization and the podcast, it's a whole long story. It is on the website, but thank you for asking. It was about he loved wolves. And I learned this. I looked it up. There's some research on it. I don't know entirely 100% certain if it's all true, but there is some research suggesting that wolves, the packs are structured with the parent wolves and then the sibling mates, that if one of the pack members dies, the wolves grieve for a period, weeks to months, and that their howls change, the tone of the howls change, and they go back to the site where the pack mate died, which is usually a sibling. And so that really connected with my brother and the story of loss. And so the pack structure is never the same, the family structure. And so that's where that comes from. It's a broken pack structure. Yeah.
It's so beautiful and just deeply resonates in my bones.
Thank you.
Because even like what we're doing right now is that you have journeyed with me. Like we're in two different packs, but our two packs have come to where the sites of where my siblings have passed. And that witnessing and that opportunity to even talk about them is so meaningful. And that's one of the things that with both my siblings from the beginning, I was like, we will talk about them. They will not be forgotten. And so I think sometimes even with my family, I mean, any moment I'd have, I'd be like, Lisa, Robert. And they'd be like, yes, They're like,
Yeah.
we're on board too. We're going to talk about them. But there was no way. Because like I had heard people talk about where family structures just wouldn't talk about that person or whatever. I was like, under no circumstances is that our story or what's happening here. And then two, because they've left behind kids.
Right.
That any time I'm with their kids, I'm telling stories. If they do something that reminds me of their parent, I tell them, to just make them still in the present and
Yeah, I
not
love
forgotten. And that's also part of this play is I don't want Lisa to be forgotten and I don't want Lisa just to be a statistic.
Right. And what a beautiful way to also advocate on her behalf.
Yeah.
How has your family structure changed or your relationships with your other sister or your parents?
Yeah. My sister Laura also struggled with substance abuse. So all three of my siblings struggled. That's a whole other podcast. Is that Laura, it's been interesting during the pandemic. She went into a program called the Other Side Academy. It's an amazing program that helps people who are dealing with addiction, have had trouble with going to jail, like all of these things, and provides a structure and a community in order to get it together. It's their energy and their language around that.
Right.
And it's really intense. So essentially what happens is to become part of this program, you commit to at least 2 years. And in those 2 years, you have contact with nobody outside of the community.
Oh, that's intense.
It's very intense, except for you can write letters to your parents if they're your biological parents and they raised you.
Oh, wow.
So it's really intense. And at first, we were like, is Laura joining a cult?
I was just wondering
Right?
that in
We were
my
like,
head.
and then honestly, our family was like, if this is a cult and it gets her sober, okay, we're good. Like at this point, like we'll take whatever. They're not a cult. They're not a cult. But they basically what they say is, it isn't just about getting sober. It's about changing the wiring in your brain. And that takes time.
It does.
And that often what happens, and I saw this repeatedly with my siblings, is that they could get sober, but if they didn't have a strong community around them, and the family is hard. You can't just rely on the family to be that because there's so much that has happened, right? Like you can't like be the community while you're also rebuilding trust. Other Side Academy, if anyone who's listening, who's like, somebody I love is struggling, I'm struggling, look them up. They are amazing.
I'll put the link in the show notes as well.
Laura did it. So after 2 years, she could start having short phone calls with me and then visits. And so she ended up staying in the program 4 years.
Oh, wow.
She graduated and is now a staff member.
Oh.
So she's been a staff member just over a year. We have rebuilt our relationship and we talk a lot about Lisa and Rob and how we're the only ones. And we're like, how did we go from 4 to 2? And for me, with Laura, because I thought I'd lost all 3 of them. And I thought with Laura, it's just a matter of time now. Because then I knew siblings die. This is the other thing, right? You know people die, but when you lose it, then you're like, no, siblings die. Then I was like, how is there just one? How am I going to be the only one? And then when Laura did all this really hard work, profound work, I got her back. And it also helped me feel closer to Rob and Lisa. And it helped to go back to this pack idea. So I wasn't a lone wolf anymore. At least I had her.
Yeah.
And then in having her, she holds the memories with me.
Yes.
And so it has brought us closer together, but our grief is very different. And that's been the other thing. And particularly because Laura was using with them. And she holds a lot of different kind of guilt than I do. But we can talk to each other about that and be a place for each other as we navigate our griefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about your parents? Are they both still living?
Yeah, they are. I've always been close to my mom, and it's made me all the closer. When Rob died, I was one of the first people she called. And so to be able to be that place for her was a dark moment. It's a really dark moment. But there's just a way that knits you together in a different way. For my parents to bury 2 children, Yeah, the dynamics are different. It's my relationship with my dad is complicated, and the deaths further complicated them.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom and I think, are closer. Because
Mm-hmm.
at times it felt like it was just her and I. They were trying to hold this family together.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Did you want to read anything from SisterPlay?
I did pull a couple of pieces because I was like, I'm going to see how it feels in here.
Yeah. It's up to you if you want to read anything.
Yeah. I think if you don't mind, what I like to do is ask you I'm going to give you two choices.
Okay. I love this.
Okay, great. So the way the play is structured is there's basically three spines that are woven together. So one is the events of the jail. So what happens in the jail. And I have moved forward with the idea that Lisa is portrayed by a puppet.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is because, like we had talked about earlier, I do believe she was dehumanized. And there's something really beautiful about puppetry is it requires the audience to give the puppet their humanity.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah. And so everyone else is human. Lisa's the only puppet, but Lisa's the only character that it has a name. Everyone else is in relationship to her. So younger brother, younger sister, mom, dad, attorney, these types of things, just to help reinforce this idea of dehumanization.
Right. And I think the paradox of you giving her a name also gives her the humanity.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So that's the first spine is Lisa. And then there's flashbacks to show Lisa more well-rounded, right? Like the different parts of Lisa to give more context to how we got here. And then the other side, which I actually didn't know was going to happen until I was writing the play, is older sister, which is a version of me and is working through the grief and trying to understand what happened. Because there was a moment when I was like, shit, I'm a character in this play. Like, oh, geez, I didn't know that. So it's that. So with that context, I have older sister. I have a piece from older sister when she just talks about Lisa at the end. Lisa's past, reflecting on how Lisa died. So there's a little passage there. Or there's mom. I wrote a scene where my mom is saying goodbye to Lisa in the ICU. And so they're both short little monologues. So which one would you rather hear?
I would love to hear them both, but given the nature of our podcast and our audience, I'm going to go with
Sibling.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you just have to come see the play.
I plan to. I totally plan to.
Excuse me. Okay. Let's see here. Actually, can I share a little story first?
Absolutely.
To give more context?
Yes.
Lisa, this is a scene in the play, but it's earlier in the play, and so this callback goes up, there's one day when Lisa was talking to me and she's like, your hands, because Lisa usually had her nails done. And so there was a day her nails weren't done and I never have my nails done. And so she was like, your hands. She's like, we have the same hands. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay. And she's like, no, we have the same hands. And I'm like, yeah, okay. She's like, you are not listening to me. Like, put your hands out. And she goes, see, I don't have nails on. And when our hands, we have the same hands. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool.
Did this happen? Or
yes, that's in real life. That really happened. And I was like, okay. Now, so just so you have that now when I'm going to share a piece from the play.
Okay.
Just at the house. I'm not surprised that they were able to restart Lisa's heart, or that she died ultimately from heart failure. It's poetic, actually, in a way. It's always been about the heart with Lisa. So much love, such recklessly giving with that heart. Lisa's easy to love and so frustrating to love at the same time. She was a drowning woman giving away her life jacket. I would tell her, you need to keep your life jacket. And she would say, yes, that's right. I'm going to keep my life jacket. But she never did. She always gave it away. She so rarely gave that magnanimous love to herself. She never really knew her worth. She was 37 when she died. Time has the audacity to keep going, but her body, how would she have aged? I get older, but she stays 37. We were supposed to grow old together, all of us. I don't know. But my hands, we have the same hands.
Thank you. That gave me chills. Thank you for reading that. Before I ask you my last question, is there anything else that you want to share about sibling loss or things that you found helpful?
Yeah, I think what I hear this often when I listen to podcasts, such as yours, about the sibling, is that it is often neglected and overlooked, this loss.
Mm-hmm.
But to anyone who has lost a sibling, that there's a new kind of pack. That there's those of us who've lost a sibling that we know, and that you're now part of one of us. And so that not everyone gets it, but we get it. And to help to find us, because we're looking for you, and that you can be part of our pack.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly why we are here.
Yeah. I mean, Angela, what you're doing is exactly that. You're making the call, right? Yeah. Join us.
So what are your favorite memories of Lisa and Rob, if you want to share?
Yeah. I get blended so much with Lisa. I think what I miss the most is just our long conversations on the phone. And we just talk about life and get really philosophical about things. She loved Dr. Wayne Dyer. She loved him. And so she was always with his quotes and his way of seeing things. And she would just be like, Dr. Dyer this, Dr. Dyer that. And in fact, he had passed away a year or so before she did. And she took it really hard. And when she passed, my family and I were like, oh, I think Lisa, when she got to heaven, was like, met the divine, met Jesus, and was like, hugs and all those things, saw some family members, and then was like, okay, this has been really great, but where's Dr. Dyer? Yeah, just her way of being in the world and giving. I miss our talks. Yeah. Rob, I'm just going to do it in this way. It's actually not a memory of Rob when he was alive. It's in this relationship that I'm building with him now. Is I take my nieces and nephews on a trip when they graduate from high school, just the two of us. So we can have some time together. His oldest daughter, Isabel, was graduating in 24, and she's a big Swiftie. And so we were traveling to Europe, and it turned out that the Eras tour was going to be near where we were.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, do I do this? And so I looked into it, and the tickets were far more than I would ever spend on any show for myself. But I was like, I think I'm going to do this. I talked to a couple Swifties in my life, and they were like, you should 100% do this. And I remember just sitting at the computer and being like, that's a lot of dollars. Before I hit pay, should I do this? And I just said, Rob, I think I'm taking your daughter to the Eras tour. And my whole body, just like this influx of energy and just like so much fun. And I could just hear him laughing and just being like, yeah, you are. Like, hell yeah, hit play. And so like in some ways I'm like, that it's just, and like that type of energy and the memories of Rob are the things that I want to hold on to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And we did go, we had the best time.
Oh, fantastic.
Worth it.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this today. And I look forward to talking to you more about SisterPlay in the future.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this too. And thank you so much for what you're doing and for this podcast. It's
You're
meant
welcome.
a lot to me in my grief.
Thank you.
So
I'm glad to
thank
hear
you.
that. Thank you so much for listening. Our theme song was written by Joe Millwood and Brian Dean and performed by Joe Millwood. The Broken Pack is more than a podcast. Visit thebrokenpack.com to sign up for Wild Grief, our newsletter, and to explore everything else we're building. If today's episode resonated, you can send us fan mail or support the show using the links in the show notes. Information on Wild Grief, our social media, resources, and our guests can be found wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share. Thanks again.
Oh, you never know, you just never know.